Stop telling me you're hot. Sitting on the packed dirt so she could lift a bare foot to her face and blow on her red stove, she said it again, really whining this time. But I'm hot. It was hot, though. I reached around to pull my dress away from my back, and a long thread of sweat slid down between my shoulder blades. There was no avoiding the sun that day. It was bright and close, and I could feel its hot rays working their way into my skin. Lying down on my back under a tree, I straightened my legs and arms up into the air, examining each in turn. Rachel started throwing pebbles from our driveway. Each one raised a tiny cloud of dust as it hit the ground. One, and then two, and then three, all in rapid succession, hit me. Each one a reminder of the sister I was doing my best to ignore. I glared at her, hoping to scare her into stopping without having to actually get up. She was up again, pacing back and forth, her arms and legs swinging in rhythm with each other. Rachel, just sit down. She didn't, but walked towards me, kicking dirt onto my legs. Christ, Rachel, stop it, I told her, wiping grit off my cheek. I sat up quickly, spitting onto the earth beside me. The tiny pool of spit lay suspended on the thick dust. Christ, Rachel, stop it, she imitated, kicking up more dust. I'm thirsty. It's hot, and I'm thirsty. She turned her back to me and continued on, kicking and swinging her arms all the way down to the road, then stopped. I'm still thirsty, she yelled, sitting down on the brown grass of our front yard. I ran into the empty house and let the screen door bounce and slam behind me. Filling a cup at the tap, I stuck a finger in. It wasn't cold. Piss water, Daddy would have called it. The pipes shook and groaned when they turned the tap back off. I walked back out and dumped the cup right up over Rachel's head, letting it fall from my hand. It hit her on the top of the head, catching her shoulder on its way down. She screamed and threw the cup back at me, but laughed some too, so when she ran, I chased her. For just a moment, we were caught up in the screams and laughter of the chase. I almost caught her, my hand just skimming the back of her skirt as it flew up behind her. Tripping a little, but then catching myself, I skimmed the top of one foot across a rock. When I stopped, bending down to look at the blood working its way down to my toes, Rachel ran back and grabbed my hand. Shaking my arm, she danced in place a little and begged, "The river, Evie, the river, please, please. I promise, I'll be good and listen to you, and we'll go and come back so fast they'll never know we ever left. Please." I shook her off and shoved her back away from me. She didn't protest, but waited, watching me for my response. I looked up into the sun. I tried to look real mad and tough, like I was going to say no. Mama had told me no matter what, not to go any further than the barn, and not to even go in the kitchen except for water, and that she'd be back in a flash. But she never was when she left like this. I was sick of being the one in charge. I wish my mama would come home. I was hot too. I wanted to go too. All right, Rachel, but you have to listen to me, right? Mama would kill me if she knew I took you down there without asking her first. She was already gone, yelling and whooping with triumph. I walked behind her. I knew the heat would stop her running soon enough. I followed my baby sister, kicking up grasshoppers and dust. I liked the way the sky made me feel tiny, like I was stuck on the side of the big earth. When I closed my eyes, I thought I could feel it moving. The river was no river, I knew. It wasn't much more than a creek, and barely went over Rachel's head at the deepest part. I knew it ran through our land and our neighbor's land on either side. I didn't know where it started or ended, not that I cared much. It was cold and the water moved quickly, especially right after a good rain. It felt good to jump in on a hot day, and there were a couple big rocks that we'd stretch out on after swimming and let the sun bake us warm. By the time the distant grove of trees and the water waiting beside them came into view, our faces were red and wet with heat. Rachel jumped in with a scream, not bothering to take her dress off, and I jumped right after her. Those homemade dresses our mama made us sticking to our bags. We pushed water back and forth at each other, yelling and working our way towards the deepest part. Our skirts spilled out around us as we jumped up and down in the water, buoying us up just a little before we'd sink back down. I started to spin, my arms held out so that my fingers just brushed the top of the water. Rachel laughed and pushed a great wave of water at me, and I, putting my whole body behind it, sent one back at her. She took a deep breath then, diving under to grab my ankles and pull my legs out from under me. Coming up coughing, I choked up water and pushed her back away from me. She stumbled and tried to run through the water away from me, struggling against the weight of it. Reaching back, her hand struck out and one jagged nail caught my shoulder. Blood trickled down my arm. I kicked her in the back of the leg, hitting her knee. She went face first into the water. She came up coughing like I had, pushing water away from herself into my face. I rushed forward and pushed her under and held her there a little. I closed my eyes for a moment, the anger at my mother and my father and my sister and the heat boiling up inside of me. When I opened my eyes, it was the tiny bubbles that rose to the surface and sat there, bobbing up and down with the movement of the water, that made me pause and stop. I stepped back, pushing the water and my sister away from me. Jumping backwards quickly, I moved towards the shallower water of the shore. Now stop it, Rachel, stop it. I turned away and stamped my bare feet in the mud around the edge, black drops of it covering my legs and wet hemline. Turning back to the water, just seconds later, I didn't see my sister. When I waded out, though, and scanned the bottom, I saw her. She hadn't come back up, spluttering and crying like I'd expected. She swayed slightly at the bottom. Her thin dress was trying to pull her back up to the surface, its light material wrapping itself around her body and yanking upwards, guided smoothly by the quickening water. I started to moan and shriek and scared myself, not recognizing the sounds. I ran away then, the thick taste of bile working its way toward my lips. Tripping, the ground blurred by hot tears, I fell down, hands first. When they found me, I was running, screaming and crying down the road, gravel buried in my bloody knees and palms, vomit staining the front of my silk dress. Sorry. Okay. Alright, so the second excerpt I'm going to read takes place several years after the first election. At this point, Evie has left her family and she has made the decision to return home. Ipswitch, South Dakota is a tiny city, proudly bearing its 875 residents, a number which is continually diminishing. The combination grocery store, gas station, casino is the most active store in town, with the senior center and bar falling just behind. A long row of abandoned storefronts adorns Main Street, which is assumed at some point to have been paved. The silhouette of the North Central Farmers Elevator lingers in the background. Neighboring this hub of activity is a small neighborhood. Farmhouses and trailers sharing equal company, endless fields, and wheelless rusted car frames all around. The farms that surround Ipswitch are drenched in drought and desperation. It is amidst the scanty grazing, where herds of Holsteins and Angus wander, that one might find oneself standing in the middle of a great expanse of nothingness, a golden horizon all around. Evie has been missing for 4 days. She is 25 years old. She is quiet. When she was 9, she wrote an essay about what the world would be like without her in it. It is sitting in a purple folder at the back of her closet. Evie has a younger sister. Her mother works at the nursing home 45 minutes away. Her father hasn't worked since that summer when she was 9 and they had to move. She steps out into the sun, narrowed eyes shielding her from the harsh light. The golden bristle of the mown field agitates her legs. An immense weight compresses her chest. She scans the horizon for any break in the endless horizontal. There is nothing. She stops, the endless up, down of the land before her like a great wave. She wonders if they think she's dead. The sweat sitting in the small of her back makes her all too aware of the heat. Lifting her shirt slightly at the back, she rubs away the moisture with the palm of one hand, and then wipes the hand across her thigh. She straightens, shaking her arms out and arching her back. The back of her heel rings out against the corroded metal of the trailer behind her as she stoops to pick up the bottle of water that she has taken from the empty structure and walks forward. She follows no path, but moves surely. She knows where she's going. The prairie grass fans out around her in waves, her slight body nearly lost in the expanse. A grove of trees sits, waiting, on the horizon. Beyond that, she is sure, is a shallow stream. As the grasses taper off and the trees begin, she continues on.